Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to talk about the negatives of the C63. Although this car is brilliant in many ways, this car doesn't come without its flaws. So I think we need to address that. I think it's imperative that I point out that these dislikes are quite minor. I found it quite difficult to find like some fundamental flaws with this car. However, there are a few that I must go over, so let's get through them, shall we? The first thing I want to point out, apologies if it's dusty and my camera's a bit shaky, but is the screen is really small, so it's quite hard to use or see, and then you got like this dead space around, and I just think it's a bit of a waste. You could have had like a bigger screen, and compared to my 4 Series, it's just not that good as an operating system itself. Another problem with the infotainment system is that it's not very intuitive. So I'm on the nav screen at the moment, but if I want to press back, it doesn't do anything. I want to go back to like the options menu. You have to use these shortcut buttons here, but if I'm laid back right here, I can't really reach it when I'm driving, so I need to lean forward and I need to press the button. Next thing I'd like to talk about is this is a USB wire. You need it to play music or whatever, or connect your phone to the Mercedes, but the only USB I know of is the one down here, and it is in such an awkward position. It's quite difficult to get in. It's quite cat-handed. You have to kind of, right, I've got quite small hands, I'm alright, but you can get it in like that, but the opening is so difficult, and you got this little ridge here. I don't know if I'm just really clutching at straws here, maybe I am, because the C63 is that brilliant, but yeah, getting the wire in here requires a bit of technique, and maybe you have to bend the wire a little bit like that, but that might damage the wire. So yeah, getting it in straight and getting it down there is a art you must master, I guess. Next thing I want to talk about is the overall build quality. Now, it's good in some places, but when I'm driving, I've noticed there's a lot of like creaking and like flexing. You just listen to that. Like, obviously, when I'm driving, it's a lot worse. Like when you can hear the sunroof or like this, like the dash just like flexing all the time, just like through normal driving, whether it's bumpy or not bumpy road, you just hear a lot of creaking. I don't know if that's just because of the car's age or it's just the actual build quality of Mercedes, but it's just another thing I'd add in there. The next thing I'd like to talk about is actually the windows. Considering this is a C-Class, I was really expecting it to have frameless windows. I was quite surprised, as a luxury brand like Mercedes is, that they didn't actually implement frameless windows. Although the E-Class I know has the frameless windows, but it would have been nice if the C-Class also had frameless windows as well. Oh yeah, and whilst we're here doing the frameless windows negative, there's another thing I just actually noticed right now. So, push this button here. Look at the window go down, 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 and ah, it stops right here. Why? So close. It just doesn't go down any further than that. What a shame that is. I really am clutching at straws in this video, but yeah, just a tiny little negative there for you is that, yeah, window doesn't go down fully, marginally. Another negative I completely forgot about to film, so I've had to come back out and film, so apologies for different change of clothes. But the next one I'll talk about is there are 3 stalks on the left side of the steering wheel, which are here. You got like the cruise control on there, middle one's like indicator, wipers, and the bottom one's like the electric steering column, so you can adjust the steering wheel. But they're all really close together, so sometimes you can end up trying to indicate but actually trying to activate the cruise control. So a bit of a design flaw, nothing too major, it's just sometimes you might hit the wrong stalk, and then it's just like on the other side of the steering wheel, absolutely nothing on that side, whereas in other cars you think you have like the wipers on the right side, so it spaces out a little bit, but on this side it's just 3 all together, and it's just thinking, yeah, why didn't they just put a stalk on the other side? But who knows, just another little negative there to add, but absolutely nothing major at all. It's very minor. The next thing I want to talk about is the size of the fuel tank. Although it is 66 litres, this is also a really thirsty car and it runs out of fuel really quickly, especially if you're going for a spirited drive. You'd like to, you know, put the foot down. Depending how you drive, you can get maybe like 100 miles, 200 miles a tank. And imagine if you're somewhere remote, you're doing like the NC 500 and you have to drive a lot and there's not a lot of fuel stations around. It's kind of a bit of inconvenience having a fuel tank this size when you're spirited driving. You have to be conscious and be mindful of like how much you can drive, because obviously although it is a 66 litre fuel tank, it does run out really fast. And obviously if you're somewhere remote like up north Scotland, there isn't going to be many petrol stations which have 99 RON, so you might have to take some like additives with you when you do fill up, so you can get that that RON to the higher number. But obviously I am fully aware that a larger fuel tank would mean extra weight, and this car is already a very porky, a very chunky 1700 kilos. So if they were to add like maybe like a 90 litre fuel tank, it would add a lot of weight to an already quite heavy car. So yeah, I do understand that adding a larger fuel tank would mean it would ruin up the handling and it would make the car too heavy. But it is a slight negative that the fuel tank is a little bit small for an engine this size, but the car's still brilliant, so I'm not going to complain too much. The next negative I want to talk about is the flat rear arches. Compared to the front arches, the rears are just looking a bit sorry for themselves, if I'm honest. It's kind of a case of nice face, shame about the... I'll let your minds figure that one out. Yeah, just looking at the rears compared to the fronts, it's quite a big difference. It's just that the C63 is the daddy of the C-Class, but when you compare it to like an AMG line C220D, they look identical. Like they are the same, if not similar. Like there's literally nothing in it compared to the rear arches, which I just think is a shame really. I think for a full-on AMG car, they should have just given it some big rear arches to complement the front ones. So you know, like the proportions are just right, you know? I am aware that the C63 Black does exist, but it's also quadruple the price of this C63, so it's not really an obtainable option. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There is some sort of fix you can do to essentially give your car bigger rear arches. On the C63 group that I'm on, there's a number of people who have taken their car to a body shop which have effectively filled in the rear arches to give it like the same sort of arch that the C63 Black has, and it looks brilliant. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think the body shop alternative would be cheap, but it'd be a lot cheaper than getting a Black series, that's for sure. Whilst we're on the topic of the rear arch, there's another thing that's wrong in that area. I'm not sure if you can notice it. See a quick side view. It's actually the rear wheel is quite disproportionate in terms of its back of its body, for the coupe in particular. Considering it's a 19-inch wheel, it just kind of looks lost in the design of the back of the rear of the coupe. Like if you just have a look at the front, you can see that the 19-inch really does stand out. It looks in proportion to its body, but then when you look at an overview of it, look at the rear wheel and look at the front wheel. They're both 19 inches, yet for some reason, well, because of the design, the rear wheel just looks so lost and looks so small and disproportionate to its body. For those wondering why my suspension looks quite low at the back, it's because I'm kind of parked on like a bit of a verge, so it's a bit uneven. But it's kind of, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Just like look at the front arch, well, look at the front wheel. Kind of just looks right. That's 19-inch wheel right there. Looks proportionate. And then when you come to the other side, yeah, it doesn't look like a 19-inch wheel, does it? Considering it's the exact same size as that. But when you look here, it looks just a little bit out of place. It's not too bad, but it is noticeable. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the Harman Kardon stereo system for this car. It's not particularly great, to put it straight, really. It sounds pretty average for a Harman Kardon system. I've had Harman Kardon in various BMWs and it sounds so much better than this one. So yeah, the Harman Kardon system for this car is average. It sounds alright, but it's not anything brilliant. However, there is a simple fix for that, and literally all we have to do is use your right foot, put your foot flat to the floor and listen to the symphony of that 6.2 V8. Ready? The next thing I'd like to talk about is the gearbox. It isn't perfect, especially when it's cold. It's quite clunky and quite docile when manoeuvring when it's cold and through town especially. It's generally quite clunky and doesn't like to, when putting it into gear or whatever, it doesn't like to be moved around very much. It's very slow, methodical. It just doesn't want to get going very quickly until it's warmed up. Now I would like to show you the various modes it has, but unfortunately the Comfort, Sport Plus and whatever, it's decided to stop working. So now I'm stuck in Comfort, and it's kind of brought me on to the next thing that's not okay with the Comfort mode on this car. So I'm coming down this slip road, I'm in Comfort, and I want to change gear when I put my foot down in Comfort, and this is what happens. You see, there was like, it changed gear twice. It was very intermittent. It didn't want to change gear appropriately, well, to the highest gear essentially. Tried to change gear once, it wasn't sure what to do, and that's kind of not great for normal driving when you don't have time to quickly put it in Sport Plus mode. Comfort mode in this gearbox isn't great for day-to-day scenarios when you want to put your foot down, because it doesn't know what gear to go in. It jumped like it went into 3 gears. It changed 3 times, I think, and that's not really great for daily scenarios, like I said. Then the final thing that I could really touch upon the C63 with the gearbox is the manual mode. So you've got these 2 paddles here, and when you're in manual mode, I know it's great for when you want to downshift and hear the bark of the C63. When you do downshift or when you want to upshift, it's not as quick as when you're in Sport Plus mode. So when you want to upshift, it's kind of like a 1 second delay. I'm not sure it's exactly 1 second, but it's not perfect. If you want faster shifts, then just be better off with Sport Plus mode. End of, really. Unless you're on track, I think maybe using the paddles would be better. Or if you just want to, I don't know, be in town and be antisocial like me and downshift just for the crack, just for the noise, then the paddles are better for that. If you just want to quickly get away, don't bother using the paddles, just use the Sport Plus mode. It's so much better and so much more responsive and quicker for the downshifts and upshifts. So there you have it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed my video of my negatives. Oh, a nice M850i. I haven't actually seen one on the road yet. Yeah, I hope you have enjoyed my negatives video. Obviously, I know like all these have been so minor. I really have been clutching at straws to make this video, but there are some things that aren't perfect with this car, and I think it's only fair to outline them and let you know what they are. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for the recent support. I've had quite a big son of growth on my channel, and I'll see you in the future.